Welcome back, everyone. I hope you got lots of coffee and are energetic about what we're going to be doing for the rest of the afternoon. Actually, there's some great presentations. This idea about smart cities, it's like a buzzword. What do we really mean about being smart? I mean, we thought we already were smart. But, and in fact, GIS has been used to help make cities smart for quite some time. But what are some of the new patterns? Okay, if you actually talk to some of the civic leaders, what are they actually saying? Well, they want their cities to be more sustainable. They want to be more resilient. They want more collaboration. They want to make the cities more livable. And of course, they really want to take advantage of things to become more innovative and create new economies for the future. So if we look at a community today, what are the functions that actually exist? So what we really have are many stovepiped systems. In other words, systems that are working independently, systems for government services, systems for telecommunications, systems for security, systems for managing buildings, banking systems, hospitals, healthcare. And these systems actually work independently in most of the time. Now, the promise of smart cities is that these will become more cross-cutting interactions and synergies between systems. But how do you actually really accomplish that? So what I'm going to talk about here very quickly is 5 ways that core GIS capabilities can actually support smart cities. And I'm just going to go through them very quickly one by one. And hopefully this will leave you with some ideas about what you can do. So you can read these on your own, but I'm just going to quickly talk about them. First of all is optimizing city planning. I mean, we saw this morning in just a brilliant set of work from City of Prague. But that is to actually plan a city that makes sense. Second is provide a system of engagement and new applications for citizens and government to interact in a more positive way. Number 3, establish a community hub that actually is specifically designed to accomplish important policy initiatives. Number 4, apply location to the Internet of Things through real-time GIS capabilities. And number 5, leverage analytics to drive efficiencies and make better decisions. So when we talk about planning, we're really talking about applying geodesign. It's actually a very deliberate process of looking at current conditions, information-based, doing analytics to create suitability and understanding, actually, of where the best places are to do various types of development. It's about designing and being creative and sketching, and then evaluating plans in an iterative way to make them better and better. And then the third aspect really is about taking the best ideas to decision. So each one has a very deliberate process and requires information and collaboration to actually support the process. So the other part of this is actually moving from 2D maps into something that's more real, more immersive. And so how do we actually create a true 3D city to support our planning efforts? It turns out that creating a 3D database is not so complicated. Some of you are already well along the way. But really, it's about using LiDAR in buildings to create actually 3D buildings. It's about applying LiDAR to trees, your 2D trees, and all of a sudden you have 3D trees. 2D parcels can become 3D spaces, especially where you're working in sort of urban cores where you have a lot of vertical spaces there to manage. A 2D base map becomes a 3D base map, meaning that it actually has terrain, it has a surface, it has 3D objects placed upon it. And then imagery. Imagery is not just a backdrop anymore, it becomes an overlay, an immersive overlay that you're going to look at both vertically as well as in an oblique way. And then a LiDAR DTM is not just a data structure, it actually brings life to the landscape and is part of really a landscape information model. So the other aspect is actually Bim integration. Most major cities now are requiring developers to create building information models. This is actually beyond CAD. It's actually specific data structures for getting down, actually in some cases, all the way to the architectural elements of lighting and switches and handles and so on. But does all that need to become part of your GIS planning frame? No. So we actually need smart tools to help us actually tap into that BIM and bring in building footprints, bringing in the walls, actually bringing subsurface information in into the planning and operational phases. Then once we have actually a full 3D model, then we begin to transform our systems. So our 2D cadastre becomes a 3D cadastre. And then we begin to actually manage spaces. We can assess the quality and the value of different types of land use within actually the full 3D context to ensure that we have the right mix of land uses and uses of space. Okay, number 2 is connecting everyone through a system of engagement. GIS actually provides the ability to connect people through applications and allow them to engage one-on-one, allows them to collaborate as communities, and then also connect in all of their input and interactions throughout an entire organization like a city government. This happens through smart apps. What do I mean by smart apps? One type of app is just sort of outbound interaction, like was built in California for earthquake alerting. Okay, you think, well, the earthquake's coming, but in fact, you might actually have a minute, sometimes longer, to actually get out of the way and take proper action, ducking under a desk or getting outside. Another type of app is actually making little data out of big data, like this flood analysis and prediction map. So this actually takes the National Hydrologic System plus a surface model of the entire United States. And then the Weather Service actually predicts where the rainfall will be, and then that rainfall is actually run through the system to make these 10-day predictions about flood. So the red zones, you can actually pre-position the right type of equipment, have alerts for citizens, and actually have a pre-planned response rather than waiting for all the floods to be so devastating. Another type is actually direct citizen engagement through social media, where directly planners can get feedback about specific types of plans that they have in the works. And so really, back to the smart app idea, There's apps for the field that professionals use. There's apps for the office that planners and decision makers would use. And then there's apps for the community to have them engage, like photo surveys. There's a pothole in the road, or there's trash on the street, like that, sort of crowdsourced where you have direct interaction. And then the third idea actually is to establish a hub, a community hub. What does this actually mean? This is actually not just the city's GIS. This is another GIS, a community GIS. It's a new idea and a new pattern that sits on top of the city enterprise GIS. This is specifically aimed at engaging citizens, involving NGOs, having journalists and civic organizations and startups all coming together to work problems and make the city better. So if we talked about these aspirational goals, for instance, that a city might have about being safer or more livable or healthier or more prosperous, these actually translate into very specific policy initiatives. So for me, one of the things I hate most, maybe like you, is traffic. So how do we actually have an initiative to reduce traffic? Or once I get to my destination, I need more parking, or I need to know where it is so I don't waste my time. Anyway, you get the idea there. When we talk about initiatives, it actually takes cross-cutting, cross-departmental interaction. So if I'm going to have economic development, it's not just one department's role. It actually is the role of the mayor, and it's the role of local businesses, and it's the role of, anyway, you get the idea here. Multiple parts of the city and multiple parts of the community have to work together to change the behavior to actually get the right outcome. Here's another one, Vision Zero. Vision Zero is actually about eliminating pedestrian deaths due to traffic accidents. It's pretty significant. It actually is kind of a worldwide initiative. But it takes multiple departments, and more importantly, it takes the entire community to work together. So this notion of community GIS is something new. Here's a quick example. This is the city of Los Angeles. They actually have all of their categorical data, but then they dive right down into these initiatives. One of the initiatives for City of Los Angeles is clean streets. Okay, why should there be trash on the street? We need to be able to clean that up. So one of the ways to do that is actually having story maps that show the status. If we can't measure it, we can't fix it. So that's the way that the mayor is actually approaching this. And there are other initiatives that are out there as well. We don't have time to go through them all, unfortunately. Okay, the fourth core capability is actually leveraging real-time GIS to bring location to the IoT, the Internet of Things, both in the built environment as well as the natural environment. And so here's just sort of a, wow, it's an amazing map. You have this Hurricane Sandy that's coming in, and you see all the social media activity in real time. What are people actually saying? What are some of the specific things? Oh, well, okay, it's real there. And then bottom line is the responders understand the attitudes, and they can take the right action as the storm is progressing in real time. Okay, there are other things that are real time. What about live traffic information? Like this one on the upper right here, which is real-time traffic plus bus movements through the city of Auckland. Actually, they can modify the scheduling of the buses based on the crowds that are collecting there and the traffic so they can actually increase the level of pickup and move things along more quickly. And of course, smart parking. This is something that everybody wants. But then actually not just knowing where a space is, but actually being able to predict where the space will be when I actually arrive to my given destination. Now this other map here is actually real-time transportation, and this is actually becoming quite a common pattern where you're looking at real-time traffic plus the movement of buses and taxis and other public transportation sources here. And then what about the water systems? So applying real-time analytics to the water system. This one isn't actually animating. There we go. And then actually fusion centers. This is actually kind of the ultimate place where all of the systems and all of the sensors come together for public safety around sometimes large events or other daily surveillance activities. And then the fifth pattern really is about applying analytics. And this is kind of a complex slide, but what we're really talking about are two different things here. First of all, it's the traditional data analytics that we're used to applying. The second style of analytics really falls into this idea of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And if you actually follow the purple there, each one is sort of designed to answer different questions. Most of the time, our reporting is focused on what happened. Okay, and an example is, well, 5,000 accidents happened last month. Okay, then the next question is, what's happening now? Well, 6 accidents happened, and it just happened at this particular intersection. Excuse me. Then the next question is, why is it happening? So this is sort of the cause and effect. Well, it's foggy weather and rush hour traffic, or a major event that's creating more traffic event, which is balling things all up. Then we get into the predictive analytics and the application of some artificial intelligence, which is really about getting into, well, we're expecting a certain number of accidents at this particular point. So what we're going to do is send an ambulance out here and position it because we want to reduce the response time, especially during heavy traffic hours. Okay, this is getting smarter, isn't it? And then finally, what do I want to happen? Okay, so this is sort of the idea of optimizing the behavior or prescribing the type of behavior and interactions that we want to happen. Okay, so anyway, you get the idea here that we want to leverage all these styles of analytics, and they're all available actually through ARCGIS. Here's another type of analytics, the exploratory analytics, which is actually about transforming our understanding of a given problem. And so we are doing spatiotemporal analysis and analytics. So in this case, we want to look at accidents that are occurring near schools. So where are the schools? And why are there hot spots specifically around here? And we can actually begin to understand the aspects of the location and the cause and effect relationships that exist there. And then there's big data analytics, or geoanalytics, as we're talking about. This is to be able to actually attack and look in for insights into very large, very, very large, like billions of records, billions and billions of observations. So we have one of our business partners is actually looking at 30 billion travel records to make better predictions about how disease will travel around the world. And he's saying, I want my response to travel faster than the disease. Pretty interesting notion, don't you think? And then being able to actually understand the behavior of people. So here's Zurich. So watching the actual travel patterns in real time. What are the actual pathways? How are people moving during rush hour? And here's another one where we're looking at how tourists travel between attractions like Universal and SeaWorld and Magic Kingdom and Disney and so on. And then also taking the same types of analytics and watching them in real time, like crime trends, so we can take proactive action, or understanding where there are specific bottlenecks in traffic, and taking the proactive actions we want there. And then also the social media. So to wrap up here, we really have just an amazing array of technology that we can apply into smart cities. And not to belabor the point here, but ultimately what we're trying to get at here, if I can advance the slide, maybe not. Okay. So let me just wrap up by saying those are 5 patterns, which is to do better planning, to engage with citizens, to establish a GIS hub, to bring location to real time, and ultimately apply analytics to optimize and make the city a smarter place. Thank you.